Hi, and welcome to Self-Publishing Insiders, brought to you by D2D Live, except today it's kind of a special occasion because we are not, in fact, live. If you're seeing this right now, it is the day after Christmas for you. Merry Christmas, happy holidays. Hope you're all having a great time. For us, we're pre-recording this so that we can all kind of enjoy our holiday season without having to kind of get back to record a podcast. So I am Lexi Green, social media Draft to Digital. I'm here with my wonderful friends, Megan Span, Lyssa Dollinger.
Hi.
So we're going to keep things pretty casual today. We thought about, what is the topic that we could kind of riff about on our own without an audience to kind of egg us on. And we are all consumers, and in at least one case, published authors of romance. And
Only one of us will admit
when it
it.
comes to talking about romance, I think that there's few. Listen, I'm gonna blow up your spot in front of the whole Draft Digital audience, so this is something that you're just gonna
do it.
Yeah. So yeah, we decided that this would be a good time to have a talk about tropes. Just they're a huge part of what makes romance as a genre tick. They've got kind of a long history when it comes to the genre, and they're endlessly fun to talk about. I think that in any space where you're talking about romance, people talk about tropes, right? Like Megan in particular, you've gone to conventions kind of focused around romance, right?
Right. So romance tends to be like its own bucket, and then it has a whole bunch of rain droplets of different things that still are all under this wide umbrella.
I love the notion of bucket and rain droplets. Yeah, like it's these small little pieces, and like I feel like there was a time way before now where I feel like romance has had a big resurgence in the public eye, but I do think for a while it was kind of the genre that people didn't take that seriously, and I think part of that was tropes. Sorry, I'm recognizing I cut myself off. I'm on a bit of a delay. But yeah, when it comes to those tropes, did you ever feel like Melissa, you mentioned when we started, oh, I don't know if I want to publicly admit that. Do you feel like there was a period of time where especially in kind of serious reader spaces, you didn't want to talk about being a romance reader?
Well, it's sort of interesting because I feel like tropes have sort of been villainized, sort of like, I don't know, romance in general is often villainized. I mean, just let people like what they like, and tropes are really just a way to label and identify and organize the things that we like, things that keep reoccurring. And I just think it's one of those little sprinkle of misogyny things to villainize tropes. So I do sort of think in the writer space, tropes have become less stigmatized, especially ever since Taylor published the 7-figure fiction book about how to use universal fantasies, which I think was really just tropes, which I think in the book she says this is not tropes, but it kind of was. I don't know. T. Taylor, you're free to come on here and fight us. So
good. We're starting beef already. I do appreciate that. Yeah, no, I think that you've got a point. First of all, it's hard to not bring up the notion of misogyny. Romance is such a a feminine dominated field of fiction, and I think that when people look at it, they try to paint with a broad brush, oh, tropes are just an excuse for this genre to be very repetitive, or you see all the same things, or it's very formulaic. And I think
isn't that how readers consume books? They like a lot of the same but different. Man, I don't know what it is about one bed in a hotel room. Oh no, but that really works for me,
Yeah, it's definitely, and I think there's a difference between like, okay, this is a very similar situation, but you have new characters in it. They're going to react to it in a different way. And it's interesting to see like how do your romantic leads interact with this situation that we all know and that we all derive some interest from. And I think you brought up an interesting point of like, yeah, no, I like this kind of thing, or like this particular style of thing interests me. And I think even other genres have started to do that. You definitely see, even in like fantasies and sci-fi, like a lot of descriptions of books will say like, were you looking for, I don't know, Wicked meets Game of Thrones? I don't know why those are the two options I had, but
I kind of want it now, though.
Yeah.
musical with a lot of blood and a lot of loss of life. I guess that's not.
I was gonna go politicking witches, but
Yeah, you know what? That's fair. But yeah, no, I think that nowadays, like you said, I think authors have kind of reclaimed the notion of tropes in romance. Like I know that a lot of authors will use tropes as like part of their marketing. Like you'll see those, like especially on Instagram, those images of books with like the clouds of like different tropes and themes in the books. As our kind of romance published author, Megan, like how do you treat tropes when it comes to like your promotion, when it comes to your marketing, or when it just comes to your books in general?
it helps to make things easy because readers have already kind of defined what they're looking for because they use the tropes to find that. So if we say romance, we know romance is a blanket statement. What flavor of romance are we talking about? I just finished A Christmas Story that was really cute, and I think they kissed at the end. I was like, oh. But then I read another book where they fell in love and they were both serial killers. So it's just like the tropes help me determine, like, okay, well, what spectrum should this fall on? Because some people, they only want sweet Christmas. They don't want serial killers falling in love. So the tropes kind of also help you pick out your audience a lot better, to me.
Oh, that's so true. Like, and it keeps you from like catching those like negative reviews or those negative like reader experiences where they go, yeah, I came into this thinking that it was going to be a sweet Christmas romance. Turns out it was dark mafia fantasy. Don't know how I got on
Right.
this ride. So yeah,
well, I
it's
mean,
good.
you the last thing you want to do is promise something you don't have, or don't promise
Right.
something you do have. You want people to know what's inside your book, and some of that is your passive marketing, like your book cover and your description and all of that, like should be giving the right promise of
Yeah.
what's inside.
Yeah,
um so yeah, like that's why people put tropes in their book description, I guess. And
yeah.
honestly, we're humans and we just love putting things in little buckets, right? Like we
Oh,
love
God.
organizing things, like even when it doesn't really make sense.
It's so funny you say that when you know that I have like a tier list queued up in the
Are we
background.
ready to put
Um,
things in buckets?
but I did want to talk about one quick thing just because in this conversation I couldn't help but think about it, and it's fan fiction. And I think I'm not sure if that has played any role in like the resurgence of kind of tropes as like the thing that you push for your marketing. Because I know that on sites that do fan fiction, typically there's a very robust way to like search for different tags and search for different themes. So if you are looking for like there's only one bed, you can search there's only one bed, and you're gonna get thousands of that particular scenario with all of your favorite trademark fictional characters.
That's
So
true.
I
Like
think that it's
maybe
worth
when
remembering. Yeah.
we were all kids, like reading fan fiction was something you didn't talk about, or writing fan fiction was something you didn't talk about. But I feel like all of us kind of grew up and we were like, I mean, yeah, like everybody reads some fan fiction, right? Like, so now all of
Yeah.
those
I mean,
people have moved into author spaces too. Like, oh, I've written so many fan fictions. Why don't I make money off of
Mhm.
this?
yeah, I mean, people used to like published authors have always been doing fan fiction, but they didn't used to talk about it because it was that like thing that people look and go, really, you came from fan fiction? And then we kind of let like 2 or 3 movies based on fan fiction make like a gazillion dollars, and I think everyone collectively went,
Right.
maybe fan fiction isn't that bad.
It's not that bad.
But not that bad. So like I think that it's good to give people what they want. I think it's good to like know what it is you're looking for as a reader. So, and in the spirit of that, and in the spirit of keeping things
And in the spirit of
different,
Christmas.
the spirit of Christmas. It's so funny that we're doing this after Christmas as opposed to like Valentine's Day, but we don't get the day off for Valentine's Day. So it
We
is
could
what
do
it
it
is.
again.
The
You
point,
know, like our tropes might change.
yeah,
Who knows?
our
Yeah.
tropes, or we do the
Or we do
the
serial
forbidden-
killer tropes on Valentine's Day.
or we do the forbidden like D2D live after dark, like the secret podcast.
Oh,
no
that'd be
one's ever
fun.
heard of. We'll go back to bullying Jim and Mark about that later. But for now, since we as readers have a lot of strong feelings about the things that we enjoy in fiction, this is the internet and this is a podcast. So I have a nifty little tier list that the internet has come up with, and we're probably not gonna get through all of it because there's so many tropes. And honestly, there's tropes that aren't on here that I also wish were on here, but I'm not making a tier list for us. I wasn't gonna put in that amount of effort. So I figured I mentioned the trope. We see how we feel about it as a collective. We place it somewhere on the list. We got favorites, usually depends on the execution. I usually don't like it, or it's just not my thing. So right away, we're kind of starting with no strings attached. This is your romantic pair is like, you know what? I'm not looking for anything serious. No strings attached. This definitely won't ever get complicated. How are you feeling about that scenario?
Does it ever get
Um,
complicated?
Yeah, it has to get a little
I think
complicated.
I think that's kind of the concession, though. Like, if it's no strings attached,
Are they trying?
aren't you
like,
kind of yeah?
they
Aren't you kind of expecting
say-
it's like yeah? It's kind of that like, oh no, let's just keep this light and not complicated, and then
And then it
turns out
it.
it's going to be complicated. I think this can depend on the execution. I think that's where I'm floating on this because if it starts off no strings attached, but you really
I
want
do
them
feel
to kind of
like
attach those strings.
it promises drama, and I'm here for the drama usually. I'm gonna put that in depends.
I think that's fair. I think you're speaking after my own heart here. We mentioned it right away. Let's just get it out of the way. There's only one bed. This is forced proximity at its finest.
That's a favorite for me. I love the one
That's-
bed.
There's something about like, okay, we're like either this tension already, or you haven't even figured out you're into each other. There's the thing about there's only one bed. There's so many ways to do it. Like, it could be the thing that makes you realize you like each other. It could be the thing that makes you realize you don't hate each other, and actually, it was sexual tension the whole time.
Yeah.
Could
I
build
think
a pillow wall.
Builds a pillow wall. We build the pillow wall, and then Mr. Gorbachev tear down that pillow wall. That was a reference I didn't need to make there, but I think we're comfortable putting this one in favorites. Now we're gonna go to the opposite side of this coin. I hate the miscommunication trope.
I hate it too so much.
I do think it's been overused, and it's something that is less and less realistic as people become more and more emotionally intelligent, I guess. And so
Yeah.
it feels really juvenile to miscommunicate all the time. And I hate it in movies when they're like, I don't have time to tell you. Just trust me. I'm like, that was like 6 words right there. You could have used those words more efficiently.
Yeah. Oh my god. Or like, maybe I don't even need to tell them. You know what? Every time you think, oh, maybe this doesn't have to go said, some person is gonna leave a voicemail to the person you love, blowing up your spot, and then suddenly it's gonna be like, you actually never loved me. No, this was a horribly miscommunicated sequence of events. So like Juvenile is so right. If you were an adult, you should have the emotional maturity to have a conversation. And if I'm seeing a book where that's the main driver of and this is the problem, most miscommunication tropes are used as the main driver of the tension or like the problem in the story, like the wrench. And
it's too
that
easily resolved with
exactly.
being
Yeah.
an adult.
In a lot of books, it is that easily resolved. Like they'll have the conversation after and be like, I guess we can work through this. You should have 8 chapters ago. Not my thing.
Right.
Putting this, I'm not going to make new tiers. This would go in the super hell of tiers if I could make more. So
all right,
gonna,
the classic enemies to lovers.
So I
love enemies to lovers, but they have to be, I want them stabby. I don't want them to just generally just dislike each other. I want them to try to tear each other's heads off every time they're around each other and then fall in love.
I love you, Megan. You put it perfectly.
Right, I asked people on a Blue Sky, which like my account's still burgeoning, so like I'm not doing crazy numbers on Blue Sky, but I asked people, it's like, what are your tropes? Like, what are the things you like? And this was without a doubt like the number one answer. I think it's the number one answer when you ask people because it's so dynamic. It is that like,
it brings with it automatic tension. Exactly. The tension is already there.
And how easy is it to turn tension into sexual tension? It's like that close. So I think Enemies to Lovers is an easy favorite. But you know what? I'm also gonna argue. I think Friends to Lovers has similar energy. It's not as dynamic because like it's so easy to have a friend and then fall in love with that friend. People do it literally all the time. So I'm not saying it's like the world's most exciting plot point, but there's something kind of nice about having. I'm
going to go out with a hot take here. I think Enemies to Lovers.
Oh boy.
is the
yes.
is more of an external trope, and Friends to Lovers is more of an internal journey trope, because usually it's like, we were childhood friends or whatever, and I think you're dealing with more like formative childhood trauma, whereas Enemies to Lovers, you can literally stab each other.
Yeah, that's I think you kind of got it. I'm gonna say I think I would put this in usually like I'm not sure if it's so the moment, if I'm not sure if it's so the vibe that like I think it's a favorite. But like I think it's consistent, it's reliable. You can depend on this to make your story a little better. Okay?
Yeah.
Yep.
Perfect. Now I ordered these in a row for a reason. Past history is what I think of if you want friends to enemies to lovers, or even friends to we have baggage to lovers. I think past history is that. And I have read so many books, especially sapphic romance. I feel like this comes up a fair bit where it's like, oh, we were friends when we were young, or like we got really close when we initially met, and then everything went wrong, and now we're meeting again 5 years later, and there's a whole lot of baggage in front of us. I'm trying so hard not to swear.
So this is the baggage trope, I guess.
Yeah, past history. I think
I'm going to put that in execution because
same.
It's pretty solid, like Friends to Lovers, but also like it could have been a dumb miscommunication, and I'm going to hold that against them.
Oh God, that's such a good man. You talked me out of something I was like, no, I'm pretty sure I like this one. You're like, oh no, it's like dressing up miscommunication with a time lapse. Fair enough. Now we're miscommunication. This is kind of like I'll do these as like a 1-2. We got fake dating and secret relationship. So which either fake dating, you're telling people you're dating, it's not real, but is it gonna be real? Or secret relationship, you were just straight up dating, no one can know about it. I feel like a lot of books kind of fall into that camp, like especially like those.
I like both of those.
I like these.
Yeah.
Do you need an argument, or can we just say, yeah, favorites, go on?
Favorites? Are we going favorites on this? Yeah, fair enough. I think that there's no. You know what? I'm talking myself out of it.
I
was
see.
no.
I like both of these because it goes into the whole like secret persona, like like Clark Kent Superman business. Except with dating, I'm into that.
Yeah, and like you know what? That's
Yeah.
fair because like you get kind of like you're both sharing some secrets, and like everyone knows kind of secrets can create some tension, but they can also create some connection. And then inevitably, when things start hitting the fan, that creates a little bit of tension, but it's not quite the mystery. Yeah, you know what? Favorites. You won me over. Now, Lyssa, I'm gonna specifically point at you. How do you feel about slow burn romance?
I love slow burn. It turned me into charcoal. Okay.
Oh God, we have gotten into some series like some ongoing like manga series that truly were just years and years of my God, just kiss in the making, and I sometimes feel like it's torture. I don't think I've ever seen you dislike that torture.
Like, give me a little pining.
And
Maybe
Megan,
like somebody's saying they're sorry, like give it to me. We'll put
No,
on
totally
depends
fair.
on
I'm
Megan,
so
any
the
thoughts
because
on this
opposite.
one?
it can go on too long.
You're so the opposite. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I think usually, despite the highest highs are kind of in the favorites territory, there are some stories where it's like, okay, at this point, you are artificially lengthening my punishment, and I think that is just not cool. Um, Megan, you said you're just straight up the opposite when it comes to slow burn.
So this one's for you.
It,
Insta love.
Yeah,
but I don't like insta love either. I hate insta
Okay, good.
love.
We
I
can
like
still be
insta lust.
friends.
I don't mind them popping into bed quickly, but the whole and it reminds me of why I also hate that show that comes on Love is Blind,
oh
because
yeah,
I'm like, you just met this person like 6 hours ago and it's like, I love you though. It's like, no you don't, stop saying that. You like them, you have lust, you don't love them. So no, I can't stand insta love because I'm just like, I need more to validate that they actually have those emotions.
you're so right. Are we putting this in straight up not my thing?
It's not
It's
my
not
thing.
my thing.
There we go. Okay, so we got back to backs here. We're just gonna go rattle off fluff. We got your fluffy, feel good, wholesome, cuteness.
If
How
this
we
is like
feeling?
a shopping trip or something, I don't like I'm not I I want my fluff to be relevant, and some you can make it relevant. I don't know. Sometimes there's just fluff and I don't care.
Megan?
It depends on the execution because some books can kind of move too fast, and it's just like, well, we don't have any breaks here. But like Alyssa said, the fluff needs to make sense. Like we can go to the grocery store, but are we having a meaningful conversation? Did something happen at the
Are we
grocery? Like, is
making
there a
out
reason for this?
by the bok choy? I need to know.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think it's fair. Like this, there's a way to do fluff right. I think that if the book is nothing but fluff, then why are you like? I'm sure that is some people's thing. I think that your fluff needs to be managed in little
Is that
corners of the
slice of
story.
life?
Like
Is that what slice of life is? Only
I
fluff?
guess slice of life is kind of just like fluff, like mostly fluff. But like I think it's good, like in between like your big, emotional sweeping moments and your big like revelations. Go ice skating. You know what? There is something to be said about seeing your characters on a date actually liking each other. But if you just overuse fluff, it's a little too much. I think I'll put it in. It depends on execution. That seems fair. Smut. How are we feeling about smut?
If you're a relative of mine, you didn't hear this.
Yeah. You know
Let's
what?
put that pretty high up the list.
Yeah. I'm gonna listen. I like when the books have the spice. Um,
Yes.
I don't think it's necessary. Yeah. I was gonna say I don't think it's necessarily necessary. I don't think there are many romance books that I don't think could benefit from a
There
little
are
spice.
books where I have
I'm
read
putting
it,
this in favor.
and I feel like they threw some spice in because someone said, you need spice in this book, and it didn't fit at all. But, like, again,
Mhm.
maybe that's just the difference between a good
That's
book and a bad book, or good editing and bad editing.
And
Like,
here's the thing.
don't
Mhm.
just put some
That's fair. And like
spice in there for no reason, just like
Yeah.
fluff.
there's no trope that's going to be executed perfectly 100% of the time. Like, but I think when smut is put in the story in a way that makes sense, it's real good. Anyway, moving on before we get a talking to from the higher ups. Hurt comfort. Okay, your character is damaged, and they are finding comfort in someone else to kind of heal that damage. Where are you feeling?
Oh, is this the rebound?
I don't think. Oh wait, is it rebound? With that, I guess that kind of fits. Um, I think that I'm gonna. Okay, we have a category that hasn't been filled yet, and this is where I might want to put it. I think if your character has damage and like they're kind of using another person to be like the comfort that bombs that wound, that is a little immature, a little reductive. I think. Like, I think that like obviously healing comes from dealing with the issues, etc. There is something that is nice about like someone giving you like the comfort to maybe get to that point, but I'm not sure if I care about hurt comfort all that much.
Go get
I
a
think
Not
therapist.
really.
go get a therapist. Yes, go get a therapist. Usually don't like. Alpha Beta Omega is here. Not my thing. I thought I saw it on here for the people who are ABO fans. This is your shout out. I don't think any of us
I'm
are
gonna put
particularly
it
ABO,
in
so I don't think we can speak
execution.
on this one. Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
You know what? I feel like I've been seeing more ABO like stuff posted on like sponsored on TikTok, which is like a weird place to be getting the like ads for those kinds of stories, but you know what? Whatever. Get your
I
bag.
feel like it's just the flavor of the year for reverse harem or more inclusive harem potentially.
Yeah.
So
And and you know what? It's nice that it comes with as I once again not an expert on this. It's nice that it comes with like kind of like a ranking system and like a hierarchy that you just kind of get
it's
to.
it's a little iffy for me though because like I feel like it borders on insta love sometimes.
Yeah, I'm gonna put it in. Usually don't like. I do think there are instances where it makes sense, and like this, there's a reason it's a popular thing.
Mhm.
But yeah, we're gonna kind of bang these three out because bad boy, good girl, I think is such a common trope. Like this is your good girl meets the biker. Good girl falls like gets into a messy dark thing with a mafia boss, and there's something about that's good. I,
I mean, you could
I
go
I'm
all the
Yeah.
way to Phantom of the Opera with that one. Like take it to the bank.
what a yeah. You know what? Phantom is like the protogenitor of the bad boy. So I think this is good. I think this is it. I usually like bad boy, good girl. Maybe it's reductive, maybe it's toxic. I think it's okay. I saw this one. Do you feel like you see a lot of stories that are like the good boy and then the bad girl, like the almost the corrupting?
So
Like I
I
feel like
don't feel like I see it as different as bad boy, good girl. I see more like cinnamon roll, black cat
oh,
pairings.
Okay.
yeah, yeah. You know what? Considering you're kind of like the black cat I know, I can see why you would. I can see why that would be your read. I think it has the same. Like once again, you know what? We're not gonna like. I don't think the ranking changes by gender. What I will say is, I just feel like we don't see enough good boy, bad girl, and we could do something. We
Yeah.
could benefit from that. Snarky girl, the jerk. Like so, this is like your It's not much to do about nothing. It's the one where the girl is like this is the Shakespeare where the woman is promised to marry a jackass, and they banter the whole time. Is the banter worth the guy being kind of a heel? Like,
I don't mind it if there is like
They
a
have to have
moment of
redeeming,
reflection.
redeeming qualities.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, if they're truly just snark and jerk from cover to cover, it's not good. But like if they can,
Yeah.
I think if they can find like, okay, this is, you can see the humanity underneath the prickliness. At that point, the banter is worth it.
Yeah.
Interrupted intimacy. This is, you were in the middle of the things are hot and heavy. Maybe things are even going well with this couple. Something gets in the way.
I cannot
How do
think
we
of a
feel?
single example.
I feel like I've seen a couple books where like you get the couple and like they're kind of in the back half of the romance and they're starting to, like, the intimacy is becoming like a normal thing, so it's not like the first time they're hooking up. I don't think you should interrupt the first love scene. I think that's, personally, don't think that's the move. But like, so you're kind of getting there, and like, yeah, you're having this intimacy, you're really connecting, and then something like comes in, bam, sorry, the plot's happening now. I This one I don't think is like, I think it's fine. I don't think that this is
I
I don't think that there's a sex scene that's so pivotal to a book that like interrupting it with the plot's a bad thing, honestly. If anything, that could be like your moment of like, oh, things are going well. Things like the story feels like it's veering toward the happy ending. Here is your final screw you gut punch to the throat, and you can't gut punch your throat. But the point is, I think that this is a thing that can be done well.
Yeah.
I think it's a mid tier. Fade to Black. I think if you are if you are someone who either isn't looking to get deep into the spice as an author, or honestly, if you've done the spice already and you don't really need to just have a sex scene every 3 chapters, I think Fade to Blacks can accomplish a lot. I think they can be a good way to end a chapter. I think they can be a good way just give you the warm feeling, the good feeling that it's like, yes, things are definitely going well here. But once again, I at some point the book becomes porn. So
I
I
just
think
think
But
it's
I
a
want to
balance.
know if
Yeah.
it fades to black.
Yeah. That would be a
Sorry,
good thing
repeat
to
that.
tell us up front. We want to know first. Are we
That's
getting
fair.
open
Well,
door
I
or
mean,
fade
once
to
again, this is
black?
all about, this is your audience. Like, this is figuring out what your audience, where your audience is and what they're looking for. I think maybe depend on execution. I think that's a fair point. I don't want to. I don't want to be the type of person that puts too many things in the middle zone. But
It should
intimate
be a
feeling. We're
bell
in
curve.
the interest of we're running out of time. Yeah, this is kind of similar to I think what we were talking about with
All right. Do you want to rapid fire some of these?
Yeah. Okay. Will you zip me up? Once again, this is just forced proximity. This is get close and personal. Maybe this is the first time you're touching them. I think that this, any excuse for our main characters to be that close, I think is good.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Perfect. I'm gonna put in usually like it's not crazy. Best friend sibling. I feel like best friend sibling and siblings best friend are things that have come out of most bookstores kind of dropping the hammer on your like
Stepbro.
pseudo incesty like stepbro
I
stuff.
feel like we covered this in past history, though. This is just
there's
flavors
like
of
kind of
past
like,
history.
yeah, I'm gonna put it a little bit here, like into the. I usually don't like it just because I do feel like they're kind of trying to get away with the vibe of like, oh yeah, it's my best friend's brother, but he's like a lot like my brother. So I'm putting it in usually don't like. Love triangles. I I feel like in a way we as a
I don't
society
like
are
them.
growing. Yeah, okay. I I think that
Give
love
me a
triangles.
true love triangle. No
This is
love hinges.
Lyssa gets me. I think we're as a society like I want to see more love triangles that could be resolved with A, communication, and B, polyamory. We're kind of, it's 2024. Give me multiple people making multiple people happy. If you give me the
Yes.
truth rate, if you give me the like everyone is kind of into everyone, top tier. So I'm gonna put it in usually like just because there are certainly be like love triangles where it's just like, oh, how do I choose between generic white man 1 and generic white man 2? We kind of we
How
can
do you
blame like that.
choose though? Like
How do you choose? You know what? Twilight and Hunger Games managed to figure it out. One of them had to drop a bomb on a child to do it, but yeah. Anyway, boss employee. I think the power dynamics. I'm going to throw this out here. I think this is kind of a favorite for me. Not in real life. Don't date your boss. I think that there is something interesting about the power dynamic between a boss and an employee in a story setting.
Yes.
Any arguments? Okay.
I'm gonna
Um,
plead the fifth on that one. But
that's so
the next one is
fair.
teacher student, which comes with so many caveats.
Yeah, teacher student. Once again, it's another power dynamic thing. We're throwing the very important disclaimer on here. Adult student, teacher, legal. We are not getting into that mess. It's this is I have too much baggage with Pretty Little Liars to get into that garbage. But in terms of like a teacher who is an adult and a student who is also an adult, I think this is similar. I probably wouldn't put it all the way up in favorites just because it does still feel a little icky. So you have to determine how icky that makes you feel and how you
Sounds like
how
it depends on execution to me.
It
yeah
definitely depends.
that's
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Now this is just more generic forbidden romance. I mean, this is as old as Romeo and Juliet. This is way older than Romeo and Juliet, but obviously, whatever. I What are we thinking for forbidden? Because, like, I mean, it's nice. Isn't there something spicy about these two people can't be together because of society or families or something?
Yeah, it's kind of like built-in angst, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think the tone we're setting here is usually like that seems fair. We're getting toward the end. Well, we're not going to get through all these. I did want to point out, just because Megan and I were talking about this earlier, I kind of pushed these all to the end. They have so many of these options that are just like royalty romance, celebrity romance, sports romance. Do you feel like that's a trope, or do you feel like that's just taking your genre and putting it in the trope slot?
Well, some of these feel more like settings than tropes necessarily.
Yeah, I think that there's tropes that come with these settings. Like
Right.
get you get like a package of common tropes when
Like
you're
the
doing like your
mafia
sports.
fic you just mentioned earlier, good girl, bad boy is one
Yeah,
of the
that
built-ins.
and then maybe even forbidden. Yeah, I think I think that it's less so a genre. Like that's maybe a hot take, and obviously we are not the arbiters of what tropes are. I think that it is like either setting genre, like somewhere in that zone, but we all kind of know that there are um, certain I almost said kinks, certain tropes that come with these overarching categories. Um, whew, yeah, we're getting close to the end here. I don't think that there's. I think we've hit all of the big ones. Secret identity we've kind of covered in other things.
Right.
You know what? I'm curious. In Vino Veritas, this is like the your characters get into like they're kind of just drinking. They're together. They pop open that bottle of wine. Something slips out that they wouldn't have said when they are sober. Something that is a lot more vulnerable than they normally are. I think that obviously
It's
it's a
fine.
mechanic. It's just yeah. it's a way to get to where you are,
Like, I
where you
will
want
let
to
a
be.
writer
But
get away with
I don't know.
almost anything if it's done well, if the characters are well realized.
Yeah.
That's so fair.
Can
I
we
don't think
do
there's any.
Amnesia, though? Do you see
Oh,
Amnesia in the top
I
middle?
yeah, just man. Okay, so we're gonna go back to the soap opera era of romance. Um, I, do you do you get how do
Boo.
you feel about like how do you feel about Amnesia? How do you feel? I I feel like there are
Amnesia
ways that
is
people.
just like worse miscommunication.
It is when you think about it. Hmm.
I think that there's I think that there I've seen stories where it's like if you're looking for just a really angsty like you want to start the story with we were happy and then suddenly one of us has amnesia and like that's a huge bummer. That's the thing. I feel like that it is a trope that leads to sad romance. And like maybe you're looking for romance that is just kind of a bummer. I'm not sure if that's my thing. Um,
If you're looking for a bummer romance.
but am I wrong though? I don't think I am. I'm putting it in don't usually don't like it's I could I'm sure there's yeah, no I'm talking myself out of it. Not my thing. And then you know what? Let's end with what I think makes sense for the ending. How are we feeling about happily ever after?
That's a requirement. Like, it's not yeah, it's not a romance if you don't have some kind of happily ever after. I mean,
I,
Yeah.
are we into um tragedies, I guess, is what that would
yeah, no, I think this is ultimately like the trope. Like it's the one that and I feel like I've seen a lot of presentations about writing romance, and like the common thread that a lot of people have with this one is you might think that you want to do something where like oh it turns out it's not happily ever after the end and that is the big twist and like it's something new and unexpected. It's also not what a lot of romance readers are looking for.
like
I'm sure that there are.
I get enough not happily ever after in my real life. If I'm going to fiction, give me the happy ending.
That was too
If
real.
it's
But yeah,
romance,
no,
especially.
you're
Yeah.
Right.
yeah, exactly. For romance, you know what? You spent the whole book being with these people. Do you really want it to end with like, and then we decided we were ultimately too incompatible to continue?
And then he
Once
got
again,
amnesia.
what a bummer. Thank you. Yeah, I think happily ever after is kind of like the be all end all of like you if you don't have it, it's gonna be very noticeable and you're gonna have to sell your book way harder on the concepts to make that work. But yeah,
Yeah.
this was really fun. I really enjoy just talking about
Oh no. Oh
stories and
no.
like especially romance.
Okay,
I think
she's
that
back.
I what
You cut out there for a minute. Look, for
um
You blipped out all the.
any authors who are in the chat, if you want to look at our top and write us like individualized book, we're into that. We would buy that. Clearly we're romance readers. Just,
Hmm.
don't
yeah.
do
If you're you know
miscommunication,
what?
amnesia, whatever else was in the worst pile.
Insta love. Yeah,
Insta.
no, you know what we like now. But honestly, so if you are a romance author, feel free to drop in the comments what your tropes are. Like what tropes you write. If you're a reader or just an author who also reads, which is most authors, drop in the comments what your favorite tropes are. Maybe even a top 5. I would love to see what people are
I'm
actually
also
looking forward to reading.
interested
Um,
if you have any tropes that you love but you feel you can't write. Like, tell me the juicy details.
Hmm.
you know what? Yeah, I'm sure that there are things on this list that I just don't have the capacity to write. Like I'm not sure if I could make the snarky girl and the jerk tolerable for a whole book, but I'm sure other people can, and I'd be interested to see it. Um, but yeah, if you stuck with us. I thank you so much for. I hope that we kept you company in this little post-holiday lull. If you are watching us wherever you might be watching, or even listening wherever you might be listening, please make sure to like, subscribe, follow us. Leave your comments. If you are starting your author journey, make sure to go to Draft to Digital. Start an account. It's free to do so. Feel free to tinker around with our tools. And be sure to tune in every Thursday to hang out with us at noon Central for D2D Live, brought to you by Self-Publishing Insiders. Megan, Alyssa, thank you so much for just hanging out with me. This has been an actual pleasure. And for everyone out there, happy writing, and bye.
Ebooks are great, but there's just something about having your words in print. Something you can hold in your hands, put on a shelf, sign for a reader. That's why we created D2D Print, a print-on-demand service that was built for you. We have free, beautiful templates to give your book a pro look, and we can even convert your ebook cover into a full wraparound cover for print. So many options for you and your books. And you can get started right now at draftadigital.com.